2. Inseparable. 1 + 1. Just the two of us. Joined at the hip. You and me forever. 2 peas in a pod. Double trouble. Twice as good. 2. What happens when 2 become 1? Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Alrighty, so I'm just going to kick off with a few little shout outs and then we will get to the story. So hey, to Jen and John in Niagara Falls who listen to the podcast. Hello to you both, and John, well done on finishing your PhD. Yes. Round of applause for John. Well done. Davina Davis. Hello, how are you? Amy Capella Leach. Hey Amy. Tracy O'Sullivan. Yo Tracy. Oops, trying some youth speak there. Yo Tracy. And David Thompson. Cheers for your comments on the last episode. Yeah, the last episode, the mental health episode, seemed to touch a lot of people and make a lot of people speak very openly, and I really appreciated that, so thank you very much if you got in touch. And Heather Todd Skelton. Alright there, Heather? Okay. Shout out to the podcast that I've been listening to most this week. Bloody Murder. Barney and Tara, if you haven't heard it, it's such a wonderful true crime podcast. I'm just going to play you their promo just now, and once you've heard this episode, give them a go if you don't know them already. Their style is lovely. It's sort of conversational between the two of them. It goes back and forth, but they've got such a nice pace to the podcast. It just kind of keeps moving. The story keeps going, but yet it's funny, but it's really clear at the same time. So here's their promo.
Hi, I'm Barney Black.
And I'm Tara Saraban.
And we do Bloody Murder.
We're a weekly true crime podcast that focuses on some of the lesser known crime stories from Australia.
And indeed around the globe.
We're a comedy podcast with a dark sense of humour.
But we're dead serious about murder and the people it affects.
We find humour in some unexpected places.
But never at the expense of the victims or their families.
We've been described as the blue cheese of podcasting.
Addictive, strong and satisfying.
And a bit stinky.
I am not.
You know you are.
Bloody Murder is available on your favourite podcatcher.
Also at the moment as well, and I know lots of you will be aware, I'm absolutely back on loving Last Podcast on the Left. I love it. And yeah, I know those guys can be a bit crude, a bit rude and a bit filthy sometimes. And, you know, but what you can't take away is the absolute depth with which they research stories. They just did a 5-part series on Jonestown. It's well worth a listen. Alright, enough of that. I've got one story for you today. This story is called The Yoga Twins. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Okay, who am I talking about? Well, Alexandria Duval and her twin sister, Anastasia. The reason I call them the Yoga Twins is that the sisters were in the yoga studio business, with a studio in Florida and one in Utah. So they'd been born in New York, but they moved around when it came to opening up their studios. Now, both sisters, they did really well out of these yoga studios. They were making a really good money at first. There's lots of pictures of them from the time when it was really successful. You know, it's pictures of them in the downward dog with like lovely sunlight streaming through the window. They're just like these pictures of health and loveliness. So like, I think they were kind of in like their early 30s when they started these. So like, they're really quite athletic. They're both blonde. They just look like a picture of health and loveliness in all of their images. And they were quite the local celebrities. Both very well groomed sisters. They drove matching Porsches. Someone's doing well. And they would go to like trendy bars and high-end shops. And at one point, this is really, really random. At one point, they were approached to become their own reality TV show. Because they, like I say, they had this like sort of minor celebrity thing going on. So over the years, their first studio, the one in Florida, it began to lose money, and the sisters were starting to run into financial issues. Not entirely sure why it started to lose money. I'm wondering if possibly it might have been to do with the amount of competition for yoga studios at that time. I mean, they're just everywhere right now. I'm not kidding. In Glasgow, you cannot move for yoga studios. They're just absolutely everywhere. I do Bikram yoga, which is the heated yoga, so you do it in a heated room. And once actually, there's a elderly woman who works in the building that I work in, and sort of chat back and forth, just general chit chat, very polite, sort of whatever. And I once said that I was doing Bikram yoga. She misheard it, and she will often say to me, "Are you still doing that victim yoga?" To which I just go, "Yes, I'm still doing the victim yoga." No idea what she thinks victim yoga is in her head, but yeah, anyway. So whatever the reason is, they start to lose money, and it causes the sisters to argue. They very abruptly close the Florida studio. They leave the staff with no wages. What a pisser that is. What a fucking nightmare to just wake up and discover your job's been absolutely taken from underneath you. So they leave their staff with no wages. All the people who had paid their memberships, too bad. It was closed. This is how they earned the nickname the Terrible Twins of yoga. They get described later on as a bit sort of Jekyll and Hyde. They could be absolutely two of the loveliest people, but given enough alcohol, the two of them could kind of turn on each other and start to cause some really ugly scenes in public. So with the Florida studio closed, they moved to Utah. They open another studio, but it kind of barely gets off the ground, and it has to be closed again due to financial issues. So what do the twins do well? Alexandria and Anastasia, in 2015, they moved to Hawaii. So they're living in Hawaii, and Anastasia finds a boyfriend called Federico Bailey. So they're going out for a little while. Now, Alexandria, she isn't seeing anyone at this time, but Anastasia, she's with Federico. So Anastasia and Federico are away for the weekend. They're having a wee romantic weekend away. They're in their holiday home, and guess who turns up to gate crash the party? Alexandria. Now, she wasn't invited, and this caused problems. But Anastasia was like, "Hold up, sister, I came here for some Netflix and chill, and you are like total crashing my style here. Like, go away. I'm trying to have a romantic weekend with my boyfriend, and here's you rocking up at the door." So as soon as Alexandria arrived, the two sisters started to argue, and Federico, thinking, "Oh God, here we go again." He's like, "I'm getting out of this. I'm going to go for a shower, and then I'm just going to go do something later on today. I'm just going to go and let the two of you argue. I'll just get on with my own shit today, okay?" But while he's in the shower, they leave the holiday home and they get into Alexandria's SUV. Now, where they're going is to talk. Alexandria is insistent that they need to chat and they need to be away from this holiday home to do it, so they drive down the road. It's some pretty erratic driving from Alexandria. A witness who was on the same road describes that she was swerving all over the place. Another witness saw the sisters physically fighting in the car. She says that one of them, she was not sure which, but one of them had their hand on the other's head and was like yanking at it. A third witness sees the car come to a really abrupt stop, and the sisters are inside of it screaming and fighting. They're punching each other, slapping each other, pulling each other's hair. But the car starts up again and it drives off at high speed. And now they're driving way too fast. Continuing to hit each other, the car jerks suddenly to the side of the road and goes over the edge of a cliff. And it falls 200 feet to the bottom. At the bottom of the cliff, the car is a wreck. But what about the sisters? Well, Alexandria, who's been driving, was fine. But next to her, on the passenger seat, lay dead her twin sister, Anastasia. So a witness calls emergency services and Alexandria is brought back up, while Anastasia's body is taken to the hospital for examination. Now, an examination is carried out on both of them, and neither are found to have any drugs or alcohol in their system. However, because of the witnesses who saw the arguments and they saw the crazy driving that Alexandria was doing, she's arrested the day after the crash. She is charged with the murder of her sister. Very quickly, she's taken to court for a ruling on how will the case proceed. And well, this next part, it bothers people, and I can understand. The judge lets Alexandria go. He says there isn't enough evidence to say that she was trying to kill her sister. So, I don't know what you think about that. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts. I'm sure you'll let me know. I think, in a way, my instinct tells me it was right to charge her straight away. But then, there's a little doubt in the back of my head that goes, well, if she was trying to kill her sister, surely she knew the danger was that she would have just killed them both. Was that what she was intending? Because from all reports, she deliberately took that car at high speed over that cliff. You've got to know that doesn't end well. And there is absolutely, as I can see it, maybe I'm being stupid, but as I can see it, there's no way that you can say, I, as the person behind the wheel, I'm going to survive this, and the passenger is going to die. You can't possibly know that. That's not something you could know. So perhaps the judge is right. I don't know. I'm confused a bit in my thinking about this. Anyway, this is what I think makes this story really interesting. So, the charges are dropped, but it's what Alexandria does in the next few days and weeks that causes people alarm. She starts wearing her sister's clothing. She begins to dress exactly as her sister did. Okay. Slightly creepy. Poor Federico. Now, he had lost his girlfriend, Anastasia. But he needed not fear that he was going to be lonely, because guess who was there to make him feel better? Yes, Alexandria, dressed as her dead sister, flirting with him, which he describes as very unsettling. I think very unsettling is a polite way of saying creepy as fuck. He describes that she came to his house one night wearing a dress that Anastasia had worn 2 days before she died in the car crash, and that she was touching his shoulder, she was flirting. Everywhere he sat down, she was trying to sit right next to him, close to him, and he was creeped out. He was very freaked out. He got as far away from her as he possibly could. So with the charges dropped, time passes. She decides not to stay in Hawaii anymore. She goes back to New York. So it looks like case is closed. That's fine. But a grand jury convene, and they decide there are actual grounds here for her to be rearrested and charged with her sister's death. And so she's brought back to Hawaii. She's charged for the second time. This time it goes all the way to court, and the charge is second-degree murder. Second-degree murder, I know lots of you will know this from listening to true crime podcasts. Second-degree murder, different from first-degree, meaning that you meant to murder, but you didn't actually plan it in advance. It wasn't premeditated, as in you just did it there and then in that moment. Yes, your intention was still murder, but it's not something that you had set up, planned, and decided to do. You just did it. So, I guess what they're saying with a second-degree murder charge is that it was in that moment in the car that she just snapped and decided. I'm guessing. Because surely, I don't want to get too technical on this, but surely then it would move to first-degree murder if you believe that actually she went to their romantic getaway to get her sister out the house in a car and drive her away, because surely that's premeditated. So I guess what they're saying here is she just snapped in that moment and took the car over the cliff. I don't know if we've got any law experts, any lawyers, or anyone who works anywhere in the justice system listening to the podcast. If so, get in touch. I've got questions for days. I really do. I have many a question I'd like an answer to, or just sometimes I'd like to know what a term actually means, like things explained. So Alexandra is in court. Now it's a bench trial, and that means there's no jury. So the fate of Alexandra will come down to one judge. Prosecutors say she intentionally drove off the cliff in an attempt to kill either her sister or both of them. The defence will say this was a horrible accident and there was no crime here. What comes out in court is quite interesting and potentially very damaging for Alexandra. An ex-boyfriend of Anastasia's described, and this could be really important, described Anastasia as the sister who always got the guy. He says that there was a real jealousy in their relationship because although they looked identical, for some reason Anastasia was the one who always had a boyfriend and Alexandria never. He tells a story in court that's just it's just hideous. He gets a phone call one night right while he's dating Anastasia. She phones and she's in the middle of a massive argument with her sister. And she says to her then boyfriend, "You better get over here now because I'm going to kill her." And he then hears Anastasia battering the phone off of her sister's head. He says he can remember these like 5 thumps on the head. So she's battering her with the actual phone. So he rushes over to the house to see his girlfriend Anastasia, and he arrives to find the two sisters. They're sitting on the couch. They're watching a film, casual as you like, and around them there's broken wine bottles. There's pools of blood on the floor, and one of the doors is hanging off on its hinges. Both sisters are covered in bruises and cuts. He says they're just sitting on the couch, calm as you like, as if nothing had happened. I mean, if broken bottles, blood on the floor, doors falling off isn't a crime scene, then I don't know what is. Clearly these two sisters, when both their tempers flared, they really went at it. I'll tell you what they needed. They needed to get themselves into a downward dog. They needed to do a bit of breathing. A bit of yoga might have just chilled the fuck right out of both of them. That's what they needed. They weren't listening to their own advice. So all this evidence, right, it gets brought into court. The violence between them. The money issues that were running through the failed yoga studios. The jealousies between them. And also introduced now into court, and this is just confusing, Alexandria and Anastasia weren't the sisters' real names. No. Alexandria was actually called Alison. Anastasia was actually called Anne. Now, we know them up to this point as Alexandria and Anastasia, and that's how it's going to stay. I'm not going to throw the real names in because then we're going to get into a whole Alexandria, Alison, Anastasia, Anne mess, and my brain will explode trying to keep up with who is who. So we'll just know them as we know them. But it's interesting to know that they were going under false names. So, if found guilty, Alexandria will go to prison for life. But the judge rules that she is not guilty of second-degree murder, that she has no involvement in her sister's death, and she's let go. Her lawyer said to the press afterwards, "It's been an extremely emotional ordeal for her. You can't imagine losing your twin sister in that kind of catastrophic, tragic accident, then being charged with causing the death of your sister, which you didn't. She is extremely relieved with this ruling." And so ends the story of the Yoga twins. Well, what the hell do you make of that one then? It's quite twisty and turny, that one. There's a lot going on. I've got twins to look at in a future episode, but it's going to be a much bigger one because it's a real crazy story. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. It's a real puzzler, this one. But I felt I wanted to do it because I was like, every time I read it, I was like, there's still more interesting stuff in this. The fake names, the businesses closed down, strange dependency, yet violence between them. I don't know. There's lots going on in there. Anyway, that's it for the midweek short episode. Be sure to listen at the end for the other podcasts that I'd like to promote, the podcast that I'm listening to at the moment. Alright, as always, get in touch. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you know where to find me. Until the weekends, my friends. Okay? Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.
Do you enjoy being a fly on the wall, getting to listen in on a conversation and learning things about the people involved? Hi, I'm Rhett Hall, and I host the Brain Trust Brothers podcast where, Every week, I bring the audience along to listen in on a conversation between myself and someone that I find interesting. It could be another podcaster, an actor, or just some guy from down the street. You never know what you're going to get, but you can always count on it being fun, informative, and entertaining. You can find the podcast every Tuesday on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or by visiting braintrustbros.com/podcast. Join me as I try to make the world a better place, one conversation at a time.
What's up, everybody? I'm Tyler.
I'm Lucas. And I'm Chris.
And we're Better Than Static. We meet up once a week and talk about movies, comics, and video games.
I don't want to talk about that.
Why are you complaining about all the topics I bring up? I'm trying to sound professional, Chris.
But we're not that good.
We are too good.
We may not be great, but we are better than static.
You guys can hit up iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, and YouTube to check us out.